Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream, specifically the VS Code live stream. It's Thursday. What's up, William? Ahmad, Claude, you're first. Wait, second message. I think you're the first message. You win. You win the internet. By the way, producer, I cannot control comments. I'm somehow not logged in. And at the risk of killing the stream, I'm not going to try. Hello, Eldo. I want to say VS Code is awesome. Can you make a video about VS Code with them? Yes, but then how will we exit? Yeah, look, I'm making a note. We'll do it. Hold on. VS Code and them. VS Code plus them. Do you want like a full video or like a short? Like a TikTok? What do you want? Anything for you. What's up, John? How are you? Good to see you. Is that John M? Is that the John M? Extension extraordinaire. Amadou, what is up? Sadinand. I hope I said that right. Well, look, y'all, so glad you're here today. Yes, this is a 3D printer in the background. No, it's not a flex. I realize it looks that way. It's just I had nowhere else to put it. I got one for Christmas. I printed a bunch of stuff, and now I'm not printing anything anymore because I think that's what you do with 3D printers. John, I don't know. It's either the John M or not the John M. It's hard to say. Do y'all have a 3D printer? And if so, what kind do you have? And what should I be printing? Because I printed a SpongeBob and a cat and several other things, and then I don't know what to do with this thing anymore. What's up, Mint? Can you have a VS Code profile? Yes, granted. You have one. You are a profile. All right, folks, we have a very exciting stream for you today because we're going to be talking about Astro, which is web dev, and I'm just going to be completely honest and tell you that I have no idea what Astro is, but I am excited about our guest today because she's a trailblazer. She's awesome. And we're going to get to that in just a second. Before we do, though, it's Thursday, which means, what does it mean? Richard, you got one for Christmas. You got the Ender Pro. I think this is just the Ender 3. I don't think it's the Pro. I don't know what the difference between the Pro and the 3 is. Please start the video. Okay. So, y'all, Throwback TikTok Thursday. Let's get it. Go ahead, producer. Are we doing it? Duh. How do you know if a developer uses Vim? Don't worry, they'll tell you. That's an old joke in programming, but there's something to this. Vim is such an important concept that there's actually a Vim extension for Visual Studio Code. Why? Well, the important idea behind Vim is that you shouldn't have to move your hands off the home keys. So for instance, instead of having to press the arrow keys to go up and down, you press J and K. And all of Vim works this way. You navigate with the keys that are closest to where your hands rest on the keyboard. So if you like Vim, check out the Vim extension for Visual Studio Code. And the best part, you can figure out how to quit. Ask and you shall receive. Who asked for the Vim extension video? There you go. We already did it. Check. Count it. All right, folks. We are doing Astro today. So this is going to be awesome. Again, great guest, great subject today because I don't know anything about it and I'm super into web dev. So I hope y'all enjoy this. This guest is Cassidy Williams. Cassidy is super well known on the internets. I hope that you follow her on Twitter. I think she's on TikTok. I don't know. We'll talk to her in just a second, but we're about to do Astro. Let's go ahead. Here's an intro for Cassidy. One of the hot new frameworks on the scene is called Astro, and it's all about shipping less client-side JavaScript. With Astro, you can build with your favorite libraries like React, Vue, Svelte, Solid, or nothing at all. And it works out of the box. You can also use TypeScript or build your site with Vite, include pagination between chunks of data and more without any of that messy configuration, all while shipping a tiny, speedy website. Join us as we welcome Cassidy Williams to learn more about Astro, the philosophy behind it, and how to build with it. See you there. All right, let's welcome Cassidy to the stream. Enough of me. Hey, Cassidy.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. I just called you Cass. Is that?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I shortened it without. I just assumed.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm called Cassie, loser. I accept it all.
Any of those work? Okay, so tell us a bit about Cassidy. I gave you an intro, but I don't know if I did it justice. I've been following your work for a long time, so tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, and also if I ever look over here, it's because the chat's over here. And so, hi everybody. I see Will, I see Jimena, I see so many fun people. Hello. Anyway, yeah, my name's Cassidy. What do I do? Oh yeah, I'm a CTO at a company called Contenda. It's an AI startup where we generate content from existing content. And so, for example, if we put this live stream in our software, it will generate a blog post or a tweet thread or something about the video. And so it's kind of a fun tool for helping scale your content. And outside of that, I write a newsletter, I make memes, I have a lot of keyboards that I build. What more could you want, I guess?
That's a great summary. Listen, y'all, Cassidy is actually the inspiration behind the VS Code TikTok account, because I think you were the first. You were the first tech person on TikTok. I don't know if that's verifiably true. But
I don't know if I was the first. I was just probably the loudest for a while there.
I just remember you were doing songs, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I've always loved making silly videos, but it's something that editing videos is a pain in the butt, and so I just kind of stopped doing them. If people go deep in the archives of YouTube, I think I've hidden most of them, but there's some silly videos I've made as a youth. But anyway, when I discovered TikTok, I was like, wait, I can make videos again so easily. And that's kind of what got me started, where I wanted to make fun of the concept of the 10x developer. And then turns out people like that sort of thing. And so kept going from there.
Awesome. And before we're about to jump into Astro, folks, but Cassidy's got a newsletter that I subscribe to, and you should definitely subscribe to. I can't recommend this enough. It's probably the most uplifting part of my month to get Cassidy's newsletter. And it's short, right? It's not super long, so you can read all of the information you need. So tell us a bit about that newsletter, and then we'll jump into Astro.
It's short because I'm lazy, but also because it's convenient for the reader, and all that. But so it's a weekly newsletter that I started almost 6 years ago now, which kind of blows my mind. And it has an interview question of the week, or it has like a practice coding question that you can work on. It has a joke every week. It has web dev articles of the week, and then also just kind of silly articles, and then anything that might have interested me that week. And so follows the exact same format every single week. And yeah, no spam, I promise.
Yes, it's awesome. Again, y'all, please sign up for the newsletter. You will not regret that. Let's see. Can you tell us about the quantum mechanics work that you do?
I don't. That's Josh. He always asks me about quantum mechanics. I don't know anything.
Cassie, tell us about the quantum mechanics.
The paper's on its way. I'm in peer reviews right now.
All right. Let's get to why we're all here today, which is Astro. What is it? And why should we all be interested?
Astro is very cool. And once again, I'm going to look at the chat in case I can clarify things. Oh, also, that's my newsletter over there. And so if you see me looking on the side, it's me cleverly looking at the code screen right here. Wow, that layout really works out. But it's also me looking at the chat. But anyway, Astro is kind of my latest favorite framework that I think is really, really awesome. And they just announced that 2.0 is coming out next week. So good timing to start playing with Astro. And what's cool about it is that it feels like web development that I'm comfortable with from when I was like very young and dabbling with HTML and CSS, in that you can just build plain old HTML and CSS, but you can add a bunch of other stuff to it. And a lot of people talk about how Astro is kind of like a paradigm shift, and island architecture is the future. And the runtime performance is amazing if you look at the graphics on the website and islands and blah, 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 blah. But once again, I just like that it feels very close to just plain old web dev with the bonus of modern libraries and tooling. And so if I want to make plain HTML, CSS, JavaScript in Astro, I can, and it'll work. But also if I want to pull in React, even just for a component on the page, or if I want to pull in Svelte for another thing, if I want to do something very unholy where Vue and React talk to each other, I can, and it's allowed. I don't know if it's recommended, but it's allowed. And Astro allows a lot of really cool flexibility out of the box. And yeah, that's high level what Astro is. And before I actually go into live coding and demos and stuff, and I see people saying like, whoa, Astro, what's that? No clue. You both work there.
Welcome, Astro folks. Thank you for being here.
Gosh,
so here's what I don't understand, Cassidy, and you know, this stream is all about me and what I don't understand, but it's why would I need to add something to React, right? It already isn't that all I need? Why do I need something in addition to that? But maybe we could get into the demo and see how it augments and makes things better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's less about what do I add to React and what do I add to my website to achieve what I want to achieve. Because there was this quote, I think Phil Hawksworth said it, where someone was asking him saying, how do you make your website so fast? With like the perfect Lighthouse scores and all that. And he was just like, well, really, it's how did I not add so much to make it slow? I think with a lot of web dev frameworks and frameworks in general, you could say this for any code base, but we're talking web dev right now. It's very easy to add a lot of bloat to the page to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And with Astro, it is minimal on purpose, and certain things run only when you tell it to. And so I don't mean to make this a plug for my company, but as a quick example, I built our marketing site with Astro, and I'll actually zoom in and make it a little bigger for a second there. It's kind of a plain old site where we pull things in. We got some animations and stuff. This entire website is pretty much plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, except right here, we have this little tabbed content. I didn't want to have to make all of that in plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this component right here is React. It's actually Preact. It's not even a full React. So just this part is React, but the rest is just a plain old website. And then if you were to go to the blog is also written in Astro. Astro generated all of these cards and everything, and we pulled in content. All of this is actually Markdown. I didn't write any of the HTML or images or anything for this blog. It generated the Markdown. And so it has a lot of things that work fully out of the box, just from the get-go without me having to do a bunch of configuration files and stuff.
Wait, isn't it Live, Laugh, Love? That says Live, Laugh, LLMs.
Yes, exactly.
What is LLMs?
LLMs are large language models. And so that's what our software is based on. Nobody has stopped me from putting that on this website, and so I kept it there, and I'm waiting for my team to notice.
I really like it. I get it because I've been to said craft stores and seen that sign a billion times.
Yeah, weirdly, craft stores don't have the LLMs part in it.
They do not. They replace that with love, which is unnecessary.
Yeah, it's so weird. Kind of cringy, TBH. But anyway, so Astro can do all of these things out of the box, and that is the high level intro to why I think it is neat. And I'm kind of glancing at the chat, and if anybody has questions along the way, I'm happy to answer them as I start like coding and showing you what Astro can do.
All right, let's do it.
So the first thing that I did right before the stream, because I was afraid like Node would just destroy the stream, I did this npm create Astro latest right here on the homepage. And so I just let it scaffold out a project for me, and then I deleted a bunch of stuff. And so out of the box, I've got this fun little welcome to Astro right here. And this is the index.astro file inside of this project here. And I zoomed in. If I need to increase the font size, let me know. But this is completely just out of the box and then deleted some stuff. And so if you go to the package JSON, it is just an example basics, because again, I pulled it out there. I'll call it VS Code stream. And look at that. We've got our own little package here. And it comes with these scripts where it's Astro dev, Astro build, Astro preview, all that jazz. You'll run npm run dev, and it pulls that out into the browser, and you can go to localhost and it'll show something much prettier than this. But once again, I deleted a bunch of stuff. So anyway, that is what the package JSON comes with, and then this is how the project is scaffolded out. And don't worry, I will cover all of the things, but I want to show you from the start. And so one thing that Astro does, which I think a lot of frameworks are doing now, and I love that it does it because it's easy, is Astro does file-based routing. And so there's a pages directory in this source folder, and we have index.astro, and so index.astro is the home page, just like HTML. I could change this to be index.html if I wanted to. That's allowed. But I'll do it .astro, and you'll see why in a little bit. And so if I wanted to change something, I could make a UL and say, in these lists, I'll say hello. And I should probably pre-populate this better, but it's going to be a list of hellos. When I save this, look at that. We got some hellos on the page. And I'll scoot this over because that's not particularly compelling right now. But anyway, it's very basic HTML, nothing particularly fancy. If I wanted to make a new page, I could call this vscode.astro. We have a new page, and then if I were to do hello world like that, and then go to /vscode in the browser, look at that. We got the hello world.
The routing is magical. It just works.
It just works. You don't have to do anything to configure it. It's truly just adding the page to the folder, and it's done.
That's so nice. I like that.
It's so nice. Yeah, and also I didn't even have to write HTML. I truly just wrote the words. But if I wanted, I could make this an H1 and scoot things in here, and voila, it is an H1. I don't know if that really, there it is. Hey, it does that. And so you can put in just plain old HTML and it'll just work, and you can add whatever pages you want and it'll just work. But wait, there's more. Are there any questions so far on that? Let me know. But yeah, I see John Smith there said routing is a lot like Django. Yeah, in a way it is. And again, it feels kind of like old school web development in that way, where it's not old school, it's modern, but I'm comfortable with it because it's something that like I understood right away, where I didn't have to understand a whole new like life cycle method or anything to be able to just use this framework.
That's so nice. You know, when I do React apps, one of the things that always gets me is that I have to hook up routing, and I'm always like, oh, even though I've done it 100 times,
I know
I still struggle with it. So it's nice to see it just works.
It just does it. And you could make this a very React heavy app and never have to set up routing if you want to, because it'll just work. I see Josh asked, does it work with jQuery? I can't tell if you're trolling, but it does indeed. So how about that?
jQuery is still legit, yo.
I was going to say, I think it's still the most popular library on the internet. Is hot module reloading supported? Yes. It will automatically refresh and update stuff on the page as you build. And how long has Astro been around for? I think it first came out in 2021-ish. I think V1 officially came out last year, and then V2 is coming out next week. And whatever V2 will hold, I'm excited about it. It should be fun. Awesome. Cool. Anyway, how about server-side rendering? It does do that, and I'll get into that, but yes, Astro SSR is a thing. You can do client-side rendering, all that jazz. Okay, so I mentioned this could be an index.html page, but I'm keeping it as .astro, and I'm going to explain why. Because if any of you have worked with Markdown before, you know how if you have a Markdown blog or something, you can add front matter to the top where you add like those little dashes? You can do that in Astro. And it's the exact same thing as those Markdown things, except you have front matter, and this can be just JavaScript that exists. And so I can import any JavaScript module I want. I can, sure, import Astro from Astro. I should probably turn off GitHub Copilot, but it's fine. So if, for example, I wanted to make a layout, I could do import layout from layouts, and I will make a layout. I think I have a pre-made one in there from the template. But if I import layouts.astro right here, then I can create templates and create layouts for my pages to start looking a little bit prettier. And so if I were to go into this layouts folder, once again, I didn't write this. This is what came out of the box. I just deleted stuff. But we have an HTML file here that is mostly HTML, but with this title props right here. So you might recognize a lot of this doc type HTML. We've got a title, but there's two main things that I want to point out, three really. So first of all, this word title right here. This is importing a prop. If you've ever built with React or with Vue or anything that can take in properties into a component, it's very similar. We have the front matter at the top of the component. And so when you pass in a prop, it'll pass that in. And so if I were to do layout inside our index.astro over here and wrap everything in this file in the layout, I could do title equals, hey everybody, like that. And then in theory, it changes the tab, but you probably can't see that. But know that really tiny, it says, hello everybody. And you also notice the font changed to a more serif font, and that's because you've got styling in here.
The metadata in the
of the HTML that's rendered.
That's rad, and I'll tell you why. I worked on a project that was Vue, and we had a huge problem with this because we needed to set like the open graph data in the head of the page for each different page that you went to, and we could not do it because it's not something that you can just do on the fly easily unless you have something like this.
Yeah, exactly. And so because it does that, you can programmatically change the head. And so remember when I mentioned on the Contenda blog how I generated a blog in Astro and it had the markdown and everything. Every single head tag was programmatically changed, the OG image, changed the title of it, and it just worked. And so we have this title here. We also have slots. And so what a slot does in there is just any content that's inside of the layout goes in the slot. And so when I wrap this in the layout component, that means this main thing right here is what is passed into the slot. And so what I could do actually is put title right here as well. And so now it says, hey, everybody. And that's what's passed into the layout component at this top level. And so
if you're changing the title, then is that rendered server side or is it being...
So you can do server side or statically generated.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I personally do things static mostly because I like just uploading something to a CDN because I'm a dweeb. But you could do either one. But yeah, it'll do it server side or statically generated.
So Mr. Tian said that its syntax looks like svelte. I don't know. I've not written any svelte. Marco's saying, does Astro need a root element?
It doesn't. And so that's a very good question. So usually when you have something like React, for example, all of your React goes into a root element on the page, and that is it. And everything can live inside of a div pretty much. You can have an entire React application in a div. Astro is not a library that does that. It's a framework. And I tend to differentiate where a library is something that enhances your existing JavaScript. Meanwhile, a framework is something that architects and scaffolds out your whole application. React is more on like the library side of things because it's using JavaScript on an existing page. Astro is a framework that generates those pages and you can add stuff to it and scaffold things out. And so it doesn't need a root element because it creates the root elements. It creates the pages entirely.
Very nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so anyway, you can pass in whatever properties you want. If in this layout, if I wanted to also say like, I don't know what to say. I'll say Burke equals wow or something. I'm making something up. I can then take in Burke right here and use it however I want. And I guess because it's wow, I don't know. I'll just do this. It's easy enough. Oh gosh. Aha, look at that. Wow. It's passed in. Amazing. You can do more complex logics. I saw someone else asked, is Astro like JSX? You can use, it's a JSX-like syntax over here. And so if, for example, instead of doing wow, I did something a bit more complex, actually, ooh, this is kind of fun. If I made this an array and I'll do like fish, cake, and then, I don't know, candy. We'll just go with that. So right now it's just printing it as a string, fish, cake, candy, but I could do something like Burke.map and then inside of here do a little bit of logic where I return a div.
Copilot.
Yeah, thanks, Copilot. I appreciate you.
I know what you need. I gotcha.
Yeah, and instead of that, I could do thing in here and then look at that fish, cake, candy and make it a list or something like that. And so it has a JSX like syntax below the front matter in a more HTML-y setup, which is really cool. It feels very intuitive, especially if you've done very traditional HTML, CSS, JavaScript web dev, and if you've done something like React or something like Vue or something. And yeah, so that is high level how layouts work. And it's nice and simple, and you'll notice that it has this style is global. If I took this out, it would only be styling that component, and then otherwise if you do is global, then that means the child components are styled. And so you can kind of limit your style by templates, which is very similar to how Vue does it.
And if we're using Sass, is that also an
you can
attribute,
do all of that?
Okay.
Yeah, you can do Sass, you can do less. What are the other ones? Styled? Is that still a thing?
STSS, isn't that just Sass? I don't know the difference between Sass and files that say SCSS. They're also Sass, but like a different kind of Sass?
They're like the same but different. I kind of just treat them the same. Because
I do too, but like the syntax, I don't think the syntax. Okay, we're on a.
That's a whole other. That's a whole other stream.
We call that rabbit trailing here in Tennessee. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's so real. But anyway, that is how layouts work in a nutshell. And so let's just say you did want to add something a little bit more interactive. You wanted to add some kind of library instead of just doing the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There is an Astro config file. And because, like a good chef on a TV show, I prepared ahead of time, I added Preact. And Astro just has these modules for something. So you could add React, you could add Vue, you could add Svelte, Solid. I added Preact just because I like React and thought, hey, Preact is smaller. But you can just add it like this, where you import it in the Astro config file, and then usually the defined config is just an empty object, and then I passed this attribute in, whatever the word is. Anyway, now Preact works in my application automatically, and I can just start building with it. And so I will show you an example of what that will look like.
Okay, so just to clarify, Cassidy, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Astro then is not a client-side JavaScript library. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not shipping Astro plus React. You're just shipping React. It's something Astro happens on the server.
Yeah, Astro happens on the server. Astro happens like if you build, bundle it, and ship it as a static website. It's just, yes. That.
Gotcha. Okay. And I assume it needs Node on the server to run. That's the only...
If you server-side render it. If you use something like Netlify, for example, or Azure Static Web Apps or anything like that, you truly just have in your build command npm run build, and then it will host it without any server needed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And so truly you could do npm run build on your local machine and then just click on the output at index.html and have your application work. You don't need to have anything running in the background to make it work.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Okay, so let's just say I wanted to make a Preact component. I have a components folder. It can be named whatever. This is just kind of a recommended thing. And because I'm boring, I'm going to make it a counter. And I'm going to... Ooh. Is there music?
There is music on the stream, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It got loud and then quiet, which startled me. I'm okay with that, though.
DJ, are you there? Are you okay? We have an actual DJ back there. Yeah. It's not a joke. There's an actual DJ playing music.
Wow.
His name's
That's
Doug.
pretty cool. Hey, Doug. Okay. Anyway, so now I'm going to be using preact and show things. And I see someone asked, what about use effect, use state, use ref? Can they work with Astro? Yes, if you import them from React or preact, which I'm about to do. So I'm going to do use state from Copilot. You need to be more aware from preact/hooks.
It's trying to help you. It's like, don't do that. Just
like
just do the right.
I can do this, please. And this is where I love it. I love not having to do things. Okay, so thanks, Copilot. That's exactly what I was going to type. So if I wanted to make a very basic counter, I can create this counter thing where it's pulling in use state. This is less Astro and more on the React preact side of things. The count will start at 0 right here. It will return a div that has this count as count, and then when you click a button, it will set the count to count +1, and it says increment. I have this fun little component, and so what I can do is I can go over to my index.astro and just import it. And so if I import, now it wants me to get this Burke variable. That's really funny, actually. Import counter from the counter right here, and then I will pass it in right there and do counter like this. Looks very React-like, and look at that. We've got our little counter right here. But wait, there's a caveat. When I click the increment button, nothing happening.
Nothing happens, yeah.
Yeah. Why is that? I'll tell you. I mentioned very briefly that Astro ships 0 JavaScript by default. And so it is rendering the HTML of this component, but not the interactivity until you tell it to. And that is by default to make everything as small as possible. And so what I could do is I could add client load, which means that it'll load the JavaScript when the page loads. I can make it client visible, which is the one that I really like to do. And that means the JavaScript won't actually load until the component is visible. And so if I made this, I won't show this now because it's just kind of showing it, but let's just say this list was a lot longer. The JavaScript for this component wouldn't actually load until the component is visible on the page. And so that can keep everything very tiny and performant until it's actually needed.
That is pretty cool.
Isn't that sick? So you can still get the interactivity, you can still build the whole application, but it is small by default.
But do you have to do that on every element? Surely there's like a global way that's like just make the whole thing.
Yeah, there's ways to override it and stuff, and this is a single component on one page, and that's something where, for example, I'm gonna re-pull up this site just because this is the site that I built with it, where on this particular page, when I load it, it loads 0 JavaScript because none of this actually needs JavaScript. Like this animation is actually done in CSS. It doesn't need it. But once this component was loaded, that's when the JavaScript loaded for it. So someone could tab between these pieces of content right here.
Well, the ability to use Preact inside of Astro is seamless. Like it's too easy. It
just works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I just chose preact. I've done some, again, unholy things where I was like, what if I pass in a variable where there's this counter that is React and then another counter that's Vue, and I have them share a state variable. It's disgusting, but it's allowed. And you can do some very funky things with that.
Listen, Chad, with great power comes great
responsibility.
You should.
Yeah, exactly. And so I see Seth ask a question, are there any rules around when or why to use an Astro file over other file types? So really it's just the ability to be able to use these different components all together. And so if you want to have just an Astro component where I can make an Astro component that acts like a counter or something where it's more plain HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I don't have to pull in React or Preact or something to do something interactive. I can do it with vanilla quote unquote JavaScript making an Astro component. It's really just, do you like this format? Use it. There's no rules. If I have a file that's truly just HTML, I don't necessarily need to make it a .astro file. I'll just make it an index.html page that just loads that. It's more the advantages of importing components and using the JSX-like syntax that you get as a benefit of using a .astro file.
Just looking at the comments here. It's a great question about whether or not you can build a Moose Facts website. I think that's absolutely the right question to ask.
Absolutely. Yes. I feel like if I were to build a Moose Facts website, I would indeed build it in Astro.
Astro is the framework of choice, actually, for most Moose Facts websites.
Yes, indeed.
Great question. How does it affect SEO? Because that is a problem for applications that are heavy JavaScript.
Yeah, that is what is great about it, because everything, again, is served the HTML by default. And so for SEO, it's amazing for it, where you can, again, programmatically set up your head and everything, and none of this is run on the client side. It's all run server side or statically generated. And so the SEO is just free by default. You don't have to do any optimizations where you're just like, oh, make sure this is preloaded, make sure this or that happens, so that way search engines can find it. It is rendered by default with Astro.
Very nice. Let's see.
Really
good question.
Can I make
SSR streaming, Julio?
I think it does, but I haven't done it myself, so I will not be demoing that today. Let's see. How is it different from Next.js? Next.js is just React. It doesn't allow for these other frameworks to be built. Although I think there's like a fork that lets you use Preact with Next. But Next is very much a React-first framework where it's SSR and client-side rendering by default, where you have the option of going static, whereas with Astro, it's static by default with the option of server-side rendering and client-side rendering. So they both have capabilities, but with Next, it is very much React first. And you also have to, for example, build your pages where it's less HTML oriented and like those sorts of things, and much more React oriented, where you have a node context and a page component, as well as the client-side context and all of that being shipped. But it is very similar in that they have page-based routing. So I've converted sites from Next to Astro, and it was actually fairly seamless, with the exception of, again, so some of the like more Node-y stuff I had to reorganize a bit more for Astro.
So another question here. Can I make a simple personal website with Astro from Tetra? I think since Astro can handle the most complex Moose Facts website, it probably can handle a personal website as well. I'm going to say yes on that.
Yeah, like I did. If you go to blog.cassidy.co, this is my blog that I should probably write in more often. It's truly like all of my blog posts are just in Markdown. This is an Astro site. It is very basic. And I was able to whip this up relatively quickly.
It's very pretty, though. What font is that you're using on that site? That was the first question I had. Is that Cascadia by any chance?
I don't think so. Let's just inspect element. It's Roboto Mono.
Very nice. I like it. It's so developer.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a developer. Watch out, world. Yeah, so anyway, I think it's very good for personal website. And also, actually, when you do this npm create Astro latest, it gives you options where you could say, like, I want an empty project, I want a bare bones project. And then one of the other options is I want a personal website. And so it scaffolds out a lot of the basic stuff for you, and then you can fill in and customize.
And then if you have Copilot, it will actually just create your personal website for you, because it knows everything about you. It's an AI. That's what AIs do.
Exactly. Why work when computers can for you?
Exactly. All right. What else are we going to do with Astro?
All right. So now let's import some data. I saw some people asking about calling an API and stuff. I think that sounds kind of fun.
Let's do that.
So what we could do, let's just say, not that I totally know this API by heart, we've used the Pokemon API. So I'm going to make a new page called Pokemon.astro. And I'm actually going to copy and paste from this because I like doing that. So I'm going to copy and paste from this. I'm going to pull that over. We're keeping the layout. And I'll take out the counter. And I'm going to say, welcome, Pokemon. And just get rid of some of this stuff. Okay, voila. And now we'll go to /Pokemon. Haha, okay, so welcome, Pokemon. I'm going to also, let me get rid of like the Burke.
Yeah, get rid of the Burke attribute. That is straight bloat.
Yeah, and that's what we're optimizing for here, less bloat. And I also didn't make it optional or anything either, so it's really trying to make that happen. Stop trying to make Burke happen.
It's not gonna happen, yeah.
All right, closing that, doing that.
I'm actually curious to see what Copilot knows about the Pokemon API here.
Yeah, I'm actually curious too, because we'll find out. So I mentioned in the front matter of Astro components, that is where your JavaScript runs. Any JavaScript that you import or that you run inside of the front matter is what is run before the page is loaded or as the page runs. And so I could do all kinds of fun scripts in here. And in this particular case, I'm going to import some Pokemon data. So I'll do constant and I'll just do, oh, look at that. Oh, it thinks that I have actual content instead of the Pokemon API. I appreciate that you think I do, Copilot, but that is not the case. So I'm going to do a little await fetch, and then inside of here, aha, look at that.
Now, okay.
Now, there you go.
That's the right API?
Yeah, actually, I think it is.
Wait, but then they give you a then.
Well, they gave me a then. Copilot, come on.
I mean, I guess that will work, but I usually await the fetch and then await the JSON. What do you do?
I usually do the await the fetch and await the JSON as well.
It feels weird to do like await and then promise, like await the promise. It's like promises or no promises. What's it gonna be?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm also gonna change this to Pikachu just because I want to. Why are you mad? Calm down. I'm not doing anything yet. Did Copilot do something without my permission? I think it did. It did. It's okay. I've got to be very careful about hitting tabs sometimes. Okay. Anyway, we'll get our Pokemon and then we can get the data await Pokemon.json.
Yeah, now it knows. Now it's like,
now
all right.
It knows. Yeah, now it's just like, oh wait, I got this. I figured this out. And so here's a picture of data.name. Look at that. Here's a picture of a Pikachu. And again, inside of this, because it's like JSX, it's data.name and it does that. I could do like .to uppercase or whatever, and then Pikachu. But you know what? I'm not going to do the whole logic of making just the first character uppercase. And so inside of here, wow, thanks Copilot. Don't even have to type it out. Hey, here's a picture of Pikachu.
How does it know? It's as if you've written this code before.
Yeah, I've written this code so much. But anyway, so that's all you need to do to be able to call an API is you just call it at the top of a file, and then it is called and it is done. And once again, because you can pass things in as props and everything, I could turn this into a component instead of a page. And so what I could do is I could make, let's just say I'm going to make a Poke component, and I'm going to do Poke.astro just to change it up. And inside of here, I'm going to have a prop. And I'm going to do what I did before. You know what? I'll do a little bit of this from scratch. I'm going to take in a prop and I'll do const name equals astro.props. And then inside of here is where I'm going to call the API. And so I'll copy this from here. I'll do it in here. And then with this whole thing.
Wait. Why aren't you getting a cross-domain error here?
Because it is run on the dev server and technically run on like the back end.
Okay.
And here's what's cool about it. So let's just say you're making a static website with Astro, and let's just say I want to generate a bunch of pages and components that call an API for all of that. If you don't want to completely just smash your API with all of the options for all of these pages, when you create a static website with Astro, it calls the API to generate all of those pages and then never calls it again. And so when the page is generated, that's it. When your user goes to that page, it doesn't have to call the Pokemon API anymore. It just calls the page at that URL that has been generated from the data in the API.
But if you're using something like Azure Static Web Apps or Netlify, then the build has to run prior, which means you're going to get a static output, which means you can't do something like this, right?
You
or
can.
You would get Pokemon from whenever you did the build.
Yeah, you do it from whenever you did the build. And again, Astro does offer server-side rendering, so you can do it like on user demand, or you could do a client-side. But by default, it can do it just at build time.
Okay, makes sense.
And so I'm really just copying this whole page, but that's fine. So let's just say I did all of this. I'm putting it inside of Poke.astro right here. So what I did was I passed in this name prop to the API. Now in this Pokemon.astro, instead of calling the API here, I'm going to import Poke from components Poke Astro. And then here I'll do Poke, and then I'll do name equals Pikachu. So here's a picture of a Pikachu, but I can also do, what's another Pokemon? Does anybody have opinions?
Raichu. That's the only other one I know about.
Raichu. Look at that.
Yes.
I could do Mew. I could do Kyogre. I could do so many different things, and it'll just work. And so it's very similar to how you might do a React component, a Vue component, or whatever, but I did it in the Astro format, and it takes in props very similarly to how a layout does it.
That is super rad. Let's see. Chat. Just looking back through here. We're not ignoring you. We love you.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Has anyone built a SaaS app with Astro? Software as a service?
Yeah, I have not myself, but I know people have, and if the Astro has a really popular Discord. Actually, I can't keep up with all of the chat in there, but there's people who build SaaS stuff with it all the time. And actually, wait, I lied. I have built one in my past.
What are the odds?
I know. So, and this was actually pre 1.0, so the code is probably not great. But anyway, last year in 2021, oh my gosh, time flies. One thing that we all did on the Netlify dev experience team was we said, what if we all made an e-commerce site that looks exactly the same, like all the CSS is the same, but we build it with our own respective frameworks. And so someone built it with Vue, someone built it with Angular. I built one with Next.js, and I built one with Astro, and with all these different things. And then we compared all of the different code bases, and it was actually really interesting. And I know that on the Netlify blog somewhere, there are blog posts about it where they showed how we like generated the products for the e-commerce site and stuff. And it uses, I think, the Shopify API and everything, but it is out there. It exists. People have done it.
Wow, 2021, a lifetime ago.
I know.
It seems like so long ago.
It really does.
So Miguel is asking the question that I asked, which is like, so in essence, if you wanted to make a Pokemon search app, you would need to do a server-side rendered site with Astro, or you would call the API from React or Vue or something else.
Sure. For if I were to make a search site, I would probably do that more client side and probably do something like React where it's done on that page. That being said, if you wanted to have different pages per Pokemon, you can totally do that, and do that either statically or server side, which is a really fun transition. I'm also noting the time. I've got to start talking a little faster. I'm going to show one more feature in that.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay. So inside our pages directory, let's just say I make a folder and I'm going to call it Poke or Pokey. Inside that folder, so whenever you make a folder in there, the routes will automatically go in there. And so if I moved like the vscode.astro into Pokey, then I would go to localhost /Pokey/vscode and it would work. Inside of here, I'm going to make a new file and I'm going to call it, and it's going to be a little gross, it's open square bracket, ... page, close square bracket, .astro.
Wait, you're destructuring in
the file name? Watch out, world.
What?
You can do this.
What is going on? What is happening?
So when it's in those brackets, that means it is a variable. And so in the variable, and then with the ... you can create variable routes and dynamic routes that can be controlled via API or JavaScript or whatever script you might want to run. And so in this page, which once again, I'm going to actually type it larger just so you can see it. It looks like ... page.astro. That is a thing. This is what the file name looks like. It's a little gross, but it's real. And also, if you've used Next.js before, they have a very similar thing as well. Okay, so in this page.astro, what I can do is I can use this built-in function called getStaticPaths. And what that does is it creates static paths based on whatever function that you pass into it. And so I could do export async function getStaticPaths. And then inside of this function, oh, Copilot, you sly dog. I'm actually going to vet this code before I accept it. Oh, okay, yes, that's not it. But it's very similar in that it returns the paths that should be passed in. And so I'm going to cut this out right here, and I'm going to say, not JSON placeholder, we're going to be doing Pokemon. And so I'll pull in the Pokemon API. And actually, I have a URL that is over here that I want to paste because I'm prepared. Okay, so we're passing in just the first 150 Pokemon right here, and we'll get the response, and then well, it's calling it posts. It could be results. It could be whatever. And I'm actually just going to call it results just because they're not posts. So with that, now I can do, oh, Copilot, stop it. I could do const all Pokemon is equal to results.results because that's how the API returns it. Once again, I've used this API a bunch. And in here, I can actually not only make pages for each of those, but I can make them paginate. And so I can paginate between all of the different Pokemon in there. And so I can do paginate like this, and then pass in all Pokemon, and then do a page size of, not per 20, page size of 20, page size of 10, whatever. And it can generate pages for all of the different Pokemon in here. And so I could do page.data.name. Yeah, like that. Are you following? I know it's kind of gross.
I think I need to actually see it work to understand.
Yeah, that is incredibly fair. Oh, and also,
but I am not the sharpest tool in the shed, so that's not a good witness test.
I'm gonna pass in page, and then we'll do from astro.props. Yeah. Okay. Let's hope this works, because I haven't actually done the pagination part in a while, and so this is very much off the top of my head. And if we fail, it's okay. So I'm going to do Pokemon and / Pikachu. That's okay, but that's okay. We're gonna clean this up. Okay, but anyway, what should happen is I pass in a variable and it'll just work. And I was very ambitious by trying to just.
So you're passing the Pikachu to the
route. So it'll be /Poke/Pikachu.
And that page is ... page, which is destructuring. What's that supposed to be destructuring?
The array of Pokemon that is being passed in here.
But how does it know that's the Poke route?
So the /Poke route comes from the page name. And so it's /pages, the folder /Poke.
Ah, got you. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And so that's why it's important for it to be in a folder. Otherwise, it could just make any route in the world exist in a funky way. That is something that I messed up in the past. You have to add guardrails. Okay, I'm not sure why it is angry at me for this, and it's probably just because. Also, ignore my calendar notification that says dance party. That's not important.
Are we having a dance party?
I guess I'm having a dance party. Yeah. I think it's one of our interns' last days, and so
you're having a dance party?
Yeah.
Like remotely?
Remotely, yes.
You're just gonna
We'll probably just be going like this.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you're like gonna rent a roller rink or something and have an actual.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
I would like to do that, but
I would go to that. Yeah.
Time is of the essence here. Okay. Oh, I think I just made a typo. Oh no, wait, that's old. Okay. Cool. Why is it mad at me? Probably because I should have prepared better. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the paginate stuff and just return the array of Pokemon.
It's because the demo god is a jealous god.
I know. It's just like, it's been going too well. We need to cut this down.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna trust Copilot for a second and just see if that works, because that'd be really, really ideal. Dang, Copilot, you almost had it.
You got a different error though.
That would be really awesome. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It expects an array. What if I just do paths? Aha, that's still not it. Dang it, Cassidy. I don't want to look dumb in front of my friends. Okay. We're doing some console logging and we'll see. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Oh, I see. That should definitely be working. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? Params, and then the name is, yeah, that should be right. That should be right. Cassidy, what did you miss?
Jevinson says, do you need to rerun the server? I've learned to listen to chat because they usually can spot it before I can.
Yeah, I know. I definitely have it on the side. I'm just like, look, people are laughing, but what if you were helpful? Okay, that is fine. Maybe instead of, oh gosh, I've done this before and I'm just trying to remember how I've done it before in the most cool way possible, but unfortunately I'm not very cool. And so we've got a parameters. We've got this. I'm going to just say like, that first to see. Okay, that's what I figured, just to make sure. Hey, you really awesome Astro employees in the chat, I know you're there.
You should just delete everything and put a comment and tell Copilot what you want and see if it will. I'm curious.
It's actually I'm going to do that because I think that would be great. Oh no, that's not it. Yeah, like, is it familiar enough? It keeps trying to do this.
Well, because I would just remove, like, put everything on the clipboard and then just put a comment at the top and tell it exactly.
Okay, sure. Yeah, this is now just an experimental stream, everybody. Okay. And okay, here. An Astro component that creates pages for the first 150 Pokemon and adds them to the page list. Sure. Oh no, it's just adding comments.
Does it all go? Wait. Does all the code go in the front matter?
It should.
Okay,
yeah.
So go back up and delete those comments, except for the first one. And then start writing your code like you would implement it. Okay.
I'm trusting you here, and I'm also high level glancing at how I've written this before on the side. You can give the param name, but in the file name you use page. Oh. Doe. That's literally exactly it. Okay, what did I have before? I pasted it on the side so that way I could make it just come back easily. That's literally that is it. And I didn't have layout in there. Okay, cool. That is 100% why it was it, and now I feel silly. Because it was ... page and not ... name. That is why. And so I should be able to, what did I have down there before? Page.data sub0.name. Now, in theory, it should have worked. That was definitely part of it, though.
Rename the ... page to ... name.astro. We're saying rename the file?
Yeah, it was saying, but I changed this to name instead of page.
Okay, yeah.
So that should be fine now. I'm gonna take out the paginate part again. Let me just hardcore undo everything. There we go. That was good, right? Yeah, yeah.
So what does it want you to change here?
So I have page now.
Your params is still name instead of page.
Params are still name instead of page.
Yeah, on.
Oh, there. Go. Yeah. That was it. Okay, cool. It's empty. That's a good thing.
That's
and so now, wow, we're making it right on time here. Okay, that name. Boom. Ha. It's not really property data of undefined. Dang it. Come on.
Wait. Yeah, what page is right?
But the page exists. The page exists, and it's not data. It is. What if I just did dot page? What happens? Okay, cool. What we should do is, I could have sworn that it was dot data. What am I missing? Oh gosh, Cassidy.
Page question mark dot data question mark. I guess that just makes it optional.
I'm gonna do like a super fun little console.log of paths. And also, I'm sure like the moment the stream is over, I'll figure it out and I'll push it to GitHub and it should be fine.
Absolutely, yeah. That's always
literally always how it works.
Paths is not defined.
Oh, that's because that was me not putting this in the right spot. Let me get astro.props.page logged there. Aha, it is undefined. That's probably a thing. Okay, I'm going to cut myself off here because even though we should probably get this working, I'm noting the time and we gotta do stuff. But I promise I'll fix this, and it's going to be really stupid.
Console log.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, y'all. This is the joy of live demos. This has happened to me so many times.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's just deeply humbling, and now I'm just like, dang, now I can't share this video because I'm just gonna end up looking dumb in the end. I'm kidding. I'll probably share it. It's fine.
No, listen, it makes us all feel better because this is the reality of being a developer literally every day.
And we're like, this should work. Why isn't it working?
It literally worked 5 minutes ago and it doesn't work now.
Yeah, and it also, like, I did of course practice run-throughs and of course it worked like easy peasy, and I was just like, I've got this, it's fine, and here we are. It's okay.
All right, well, let's do this. We're over time, so y'all, let's yeah, it's like my day job. Yeah, same. This is essentially me programming. Is just
it's very real.
Yeah, running up against the wall over and over and over again until the wall falls down. It's not skill, it's brute force.
Yeah. And crying.
Yes.
But remember that counter though? It
still works. Listen, y'all. That's the important thing, is that the counter demo tell code to print on page. All right, look. Producer, take Cassidy's screen down here. And Cassidy, we like to end with what we call our lightning rounds, where we're going to solve all of the contentious issues in tech, and then you can go to your dance party.
Wow. Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Jason or Jason?
Jason.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. All right. Tabs or spaces?
Tabs.
Two or four?
Two. So I do tabs for. Do you want me to like give a reasonable explanation, or do you want to just pick a side of the holy war?
I mean, it is a religious debate, so.
Yeah, so here's why I switched to tabs, because for the longest time I was very much team spaces and I would do two spaces. I switched to tabs for accessibility reasons, because if you are using some kind of screen reader going through your code, the screen reader reads every single space and it goes space, 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 space if you have 16 spaces or whatever, or whatever that might be. But if you use tabs, then it would just do tab, tab, and that is it.
So less reading.
Less reading, and it makes it more accessible for anybody who might be using a screen reader with their code.
But what about the Stack Overflow article that states that developers who use spaces make more money than those who use tabs?
I'm okay with being poor.
All right. GIF or GIF?
GIF.
Cassidy.
I feel very strongly about that one.
JavaScript or TypeScript? Careful.
I thought you were about to say JavaScript or GavaScript.
JavaScript or JScript?
Yeah. JavaScript.
JavaScript. No types. Types. No types?
I will accept the types if they exist. I don't enjoy having rules and being confined by such typey things. I typically use JavaScript purely for my own projects because then I can move a little bit faster. But if I'm using a larger code base with a lot of developers, then types are safer in general.
I'm with you. Not a fan of types. If I know what a number is and the computer can't figure it out without me telling it, we have a problem.
Calm down, computer. Yeah.
All right. Last one. GitHub Copilot. Recommend?
I mean, you saw me using it. I like it. And the thing is, I don't think it's going to take my job anytime soon. I think it's very well named as a Copilot in that, I still have to know what it's doing. And there's plenty of times where I'm just like, that suggestion was really clever for what you think I'm doing, but that's not what I'm doing. And I have to write it anyway. And so, I appreciate that if I make some kind of comment saying a function that does a regex that checks for X, Y, and Z, I love not having to write that.
Yeah.
And so nice. I am pro.
Last one, which we'll take from Marco, REST or GraphQL?
It depends.
No, these are religious debates. There's
I know, right answer. But the answer is it depends.
It is true.
If I had to pick one, I would pick REST purely because I like it. But I've really seen the light and worked on some code bases that did a ton of really nice stuff with GraphQL where I was just like, this is the future. So it depends.
I agree. And I think that if you have a sizable application and team, GraphQL really shines. That's where you get the most bang for your buck. All right. Look, folks, somebody has said earlier, we need more Cassidy. I agree. If you want more Cassidy, sign up for the newsletter, right? That's what you got to do. So let's throw that back up here. Anything else you'd like to say before you're late for your dance party? I'm sorry.
I am late. And I think for a code review, it should be fine. Well, forgive me.
That doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with it.
But anyway, check out my newsletter, cassidy.co/newsletter. If you work on a team that makes technical content, check out my company Contenda. And be nice to people.
Be nice to people. Thank you so much for being here, Cassidy. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the stream. Thank you, chat. Please say goodbye to Cassidy and thank her for taking time out of your day. I know that you're busy.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to push this code, and once again, I guarantee it's going to work in 5 minutes, and it's going to be something dumb. And I'll comment, this was the thing that was dumb in the code base, and I'll tweet it out. So.
All right, so look for that. All right, thank you, Cassidy. We'll see y'all back here next week.
I guess it's just me now. I run the show. Okay.
Bye, y'all.